5,000 years ago, after wandering the Earth for more than 100,000 years, mankind has begun to settle down. We cluster near rivers, along the Tigris and Euphrates, the Nile, the Indus, the Yellow and Yangtze. Civilizations are about to take off. But first, they must all master one thing: trade. The more they exchange goods and learn from other lands, the faster they grow.
It seems that long-distance trade and communication is a necessary precursor to allow urban civilization as we know it.
And surprisingly, the first civilizations arise on the back of a creature with a lowly reputation in the modern world: the donkey. The donkey caravan is the interstate highway and high-speed internet of its day. Their routes will lay the groundwork for the modern world. Moving not only goods like timber and bronze, but ideas and stories. The civilizations they connect will be some of the first described in the Bible. The caravan routes converge at the Persian Gulf, where they link up with ships that carry goods to India.
It essentially brought these civilizations together into great cultural and material exchange, and really was the beginning of the trend towards globalization.
It is a key to understanding how our world works to this day. Just like the first civilizations, we trade and form networks. These networks form hubs. And throughout history, being at that hub has meant one thing.
The amount of ideas, the amount of cargo that passes through a region seems to have a direct correlation to how powerful and important they are.
By 2000 BC, humans have gone from humble huts to massive monuments. In Africa, great pyramids arise on the banks of the Nile. The first stages of Stonehenge rise up in ancient Britain. And back in Samaria, artificial temple mounds called ziggurats climb ever higher toward the heavens. To cement these massive structures together, the builders of Samaria turned to a substance that oozes from seepages along the Euphrates River. It's called bitumen. Used as asphalt in the modern world, it is the first petroleum product to be exploited by mankind. While bitumen is highly prized, the lighter, thinner substance oozing from the ground along with it is considered a nuisance by the ancients because it catches fire so easily. The ancients call it naphtha. We call it gasoline. And it's one of the first indications of the vast oil fields that will one day turn the cradle of civilization into a center of wealth and warfare. The legacy of these first civilizations can be seen in surprising ways. The Sumerian counting system was based on the number 12 rather than 10, which is why we divide our days into two 12-hour blocks, our hours into 60 minutes, and our minutes into 60 seconds. The Sumerians also likely invented the wheel, which eventually leads to another innovation that will change the course of man: the chariot.
Thus bringing together the Sumerian invention of the wheel, right, with the domestication of the horse that had occurred amongst these nomadic peoples into this really formidable piece of military technology.
Around 1200 BC, a chariot-driven clash of civilizations cuts off trade routes for copper and tin, the metals we need to make bronze tools and weapons. But luckily, the stars have made us an alternative: iron. Now, metalsmiths make a crucial discovery. By working at higher temperatures, they can release the power of this ancient metal. Easier to sharpen and 700 times more common on Earth than copper. It is a game changer. humanity enters the Iron Age. As we reach the first millennium BC, history has taken us on a wild ride. From the initial blast of the Big Bang to the formation of Earth and its first creatures, and the rise of man. We've seen the Ice Age create bridges to spread mankind around the world, then strand us on different continents, leaving us to survive on what we have at hand. So by 1000 BC, the world remains a divided place. The trade network that connects much of Eurasia and North Africa doesn't yet penetrate the planet's driest deserts or cross the vastest oceans. Cut off by geography are people in places like sub-Saharan Africa and the Americas. With few easy-to-domesticate plants and animals of their own, they remain tied to more ancient ways of life. 600 BC. The cavalry have arrived. Humans ride into battle on horseback for the first time. We've seen that just taming a horse gives man a massive advantage. Now, pairing him with iron weapons makes him nearly unstoppable.
These advances in technology, they don't just make a fighting ability possible. They make empires possible.
And that is the story of the next several millennia. With new technology and improved logistics, empires spread, uniting massive land areas under a central control. As empires grow, so do new beliefs.
One interesting phenomenon we see with the rise of these empires is this idea of monotheism, this idea of a universal God that develops over time, and it's just a phenomenon.
Judaism emerges, from which we eventually get Christianity and Islam. Buddhism and Hinduism also arise. The 5 major religions today are all rooted in this remarkable era. Although empires spread, some great powers remain isolated. The rise of the Himalayas 50 million years earlier has left China cut off from trading with the rest of the world. But that is about